You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday. It's Tuesday. That's the day after Monday, the day before Hump Day. Tuesday, which we like to refer to as Taco Tuesday. Hit it, man.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's
Yes, it is Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, the day after the NCAA finals, and JP's on the board. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm great and hungry now, as usual. So I expected though.
You got to move for some tacos?
Yep. I mean, I'm always in the mood for some tacos.
When's the last time you went to Taco Bell? Do you ever go? Does anybody ever go to Taco Bell anymore?
I don't, but it's funny I said. I think like last week I had a craving for it and went, but before that it had been months.
Months. I think it's been years for me.
Yeah. Not a big. I got to be in a specific mood for it.
I understand.
Yes.
I totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, listen, we got a great show laid on for you. No guests today intentionally because I got too much to unpack. We got to opine for a bit. So all that to say, I got a triple dipper bar none. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, we're going to talk about them, activist judges. What is that? Activist judges. Are there judges who are activists? Certainly there are, of course. But at the same time, you got to know that some judges are going to rule the way you don't want them to rule, and that's just the way life goes. But in some cases, though, we can look at them and we can see it, and we know for a fact that judge should have recused. So we're going to talk about it. Activist judges, number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, adventures in woke world. Oh, my gosh. Listen, every once in a while when I'm getting the show ready, I find material that I look at it and go, whew, oh, the wokeness. Oh, I thought we were done with the wokeness. How much wokeness can there be? And then I realize what I've got is a vast cornucopia, a plethora, a buffet, if you will, a charcuterie board filled with wokeness. And that's when we got to do a round of adventures in woke world. All right, and then number 3, oh my gosh. I don't know if you see what all Doge has been up to. Things have been uncovered, things are finding out, but we're going to talk about some waste, fraud, and abuse. That's it. I mean, I don't know how better I can describe it. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper is waste, fraud, and abuse. Y'all stand by for that one. All right, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue, and I'll just remind you guys that every single day, the Rightside Way monologue is brought to you by Stan McDonald, attorney at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee. Stan McDonald, practicing law for over 30 years, and y'all, he is the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about him in just a minute. All right, let me get started here and just say these are weird times in which we live, right? They are. They're weird. And to some degree, these are unprecedented times in many ways. Perhaps there's no more present example of the weirdness of our times than the battle that's going on in our courtrooms, because the battle is not so much now about the merits of the cases in our courtrooms as it is about the abuses of the justice system taking place in our courtrooms, and even about the courtrooms themselves. There have been numerous attacks on the rule of law, the use of law, the judiciary itself, mostly by the left. And before I go much further, I need to call out the hypocrisy of the left in the recent debate over judges making rulings. You see, we're currently seeing debate about the far-reaching, perhaps overreaching, rulings that portend to enjoin the Trump administration on a nationwide level. Federal district court judges have been issuing injunctions against economic policy, DOGE efforts, immigration and deportation policies, military policies, hiring and firing policies. The list goes on. The left will use the courts to their advantage and then rail against Trump's team for daring to question. But the hypocrisy is deeper than their arguments. It was not so long ago, if you recall, the Supreme Court of the United States suffered a left-wing leak about the pending Roe v. Wade decision. And the left went bananas. They were calling for judges to resign. They wanted to pack the court to have extra justices. They just went on and on and on about it. They even went to the point of having protesters marching on Supreme Court justices' homes in an effort to intimidate them. One individual was actually arrested for plotting to murder Justice Brett Kavanaugh, traveled all the way from California to do it. But the left is now screaming because Trump has dared to actually use the system, appeal overreaching judicial orders. Like I said, weirdness and hypocrisy. But let's also not forget, though, when the President of the United States, Donald Trump, was indicted by an activist state district attorney on supposed federal campaign finance documentation violations. There's a sentence for you. Violations that had already been dismissed by the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. That same state-level DA, Alvin Bragg, remember him, backed by George Soros, had already had a stated policy of not prosecuting crime, and yet publicly stated his bias and dislike of Trump, even campaigned on the idea of getting Trump. But hey, nothing to see here, just a good guy sticking to the bad guy, right? Because, no one's above the law, the left said. Yeah, these are weird times indeed. Meanwhile, there were no charges pressed for Hillary Clinton paying to have the Steele dossier prepared and disseminated to benefit her campaign. There were no charges for Joe Biden having the assistance of media to shut down the Hunter Biden laptop story during his campaign. I mean, there should be no wonder by anyone as to why conservatives feel like we look at a two-tier justice system too often. But the activist DAs have now taken a back seat in the headlines to the activist judges in the federal district courts. Now, having said that, let me clarify something again. A ruling that I don't like does not make the judge an activist. It doesn't. I'm a firm believer in the sanctity of the rule of law, and so are the vast majority of men and women who wear the black robes of a judge. The idea that everything in a courtroom has to go the way that I want it to is just simply not realistic. But where we have a problem too often today is judges who take the bench with an obvious bias and then rule first on bias and second on the law. And we've seen that of late. We have seen judges who have ruled against Trump policies who have a prior history of activism on the same ideological positions that are in front of them with the Trump cases. Those judges should have recused. All that does when they do that is disenfranchise the average American from trusting in the legal system. And then, oh, by the way, then come the calls to impeach and the calls to reform and the calls to dox them. But we're not the left, y'all. We can't go down those roads willy-nilly. Those ideas are not always grounded in good order and discipline. In the absence of illegal, immoral, or unethical conduct, which is proven in accordance with the canons of judicial ethics, we are stuck with having to use the actual system to appeal those rulings. But the Trump admin has been doing just that, doing it quite effectively, actually. And there's no laying down on this. There is no acquiescence here. The Trump team is using every means available to fight back against judicial rulings, some of which were wrong and some of which were just purely activist. Now let's talk about what I define as an activist judge for a minute. Let's take, for instance, federal judge Anna Reyes. Federal District Court Judge Anna Reyes is an activist extraordinaire. She is on record as having stated that the only of the two sexes, that the idea of only two sexes is not biologically correct. Wow. She's openly gay herself. She has served on the board of organizations that promote abortion. She's even calling abortion a necessity. She was a panelist on microaggressions a few years ago at a conference, which also made DEI one of its prime focuses. Reyes gave over $38,000 personally to Democrat candidates and causes, including an organization that openly battles Trump by giving to anyone that has suffered from his mean tweets. Judge Reyes previously served as an activist attorney who assisted illegal alien asylum seekers to stay in the U.S. Look, knowing all of that, you have to wonder, how is it that Judge Reyes didn't feel the need to recuse herself when the case before her was to decide whether or not the Trump administration could bar transgenders from military service? She is so obviously biased. But she is now being appealed after issuing a nationwide injunction against the Trump administration's efforts to bar transgenders from military service. SecDef Pete Hegseth, he said she ought to come down to Fort Benning and work with the Ranger Regiment since she knows so much about military strategy. But then there was last night and today, by the way. Last night we got a ruling from the Supreme Court, a ruling that seemed to indicate that the left can scream all it wants to, but the system still has some checks and balances in place. A judicial system that may in fact work when it's used properly. Federal District Court Judge Boasberg, who has famously attempted to shut down the Trump admin's efforts to deport illegal alien criminal gang members, was just backhanded by SCOTUS. His injunction was lifted, and the Trump administration can now move forward with packing up the Tren de Aragua and MS-13 gang members that they find and shipping them off to El Salvador's SCOT prison under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. In a 5-4 majority opinion, the Supreme Court granted the Trump administration's request to lift Judge Boasberg's stay. That's huge, y'all. It's massive. Trump's legal team had argued that the lower court had injected itself unnecessarily, maybe even recklessly, into the constitutional authorities of the president to protect the nation from the foreign terrorist organizations like MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. Well, the court agreed. Attorney General Pam Bondi called it a victory for the rule of law. And she went on to say that what she called an activist judge in Washington, D.C. does, quote, not have the jurisdiction to seize control of President Trump's authority to conduct foreign policy and keep American people safe. She also added, Pam Bondi did, that the Department of Justice will continue fighting in court to make America safe again. Look, the bottom line is this. I'm an attorney. I am. As an attorney, I believe strongly that my job is to zealously pursue and defend my clients' interests, but I also know that sometimes I have to advise my clients that what they feel is not the same as what they can sue for. This is why lawyers are sometimes referred to as counselors, because we are actually giving counsel, both good and bad. But I should also say that I take pride in my profession. As an officer of the court, I was sworn in having already provided all the necessary background checks, the fingerprinting, all of it. And I am sworn to also maintain my license by taking annual continuing legal education, which must by law include ethics. And I'm not alone. It's the same for anyone else who practices law. And I'll be honest with you. Maybe I'm just a small-town Alabama lawyer. Maybe I'm not the district attorney of Manhattan with George Soros funding my campaign, or a federal district court judge with years of rulings behind me. But I do believe that all of us in the profession of law are to be held to the same type of rigorous standards and rules of conduct as anyone else. The even and unbiased application of the rule of law is supposed to be the rule of law. And sometimes it's not just the client that needs to hear things they don't want to hear. Sometimes the lawyer needs to be told things that go contrary to their notions, and sometimes maybe the judge needs to step back, objectively look at a case or a prosecution, and make sure they don't have their own grievances and emotions and politics and prejudices all wrapped up in it. Because the rule of law is supposed to be sacred. It is. It's a part of who we are as a nation. It's what keeps us from becoming the Lord of the Flies. And it only works if it's actually unbiased and even in its application. We got to get rid of activist judges. We got to find a solution to this. And I got a few ideas I'll share with you in a minute. But the bottom line is this. The rule of law cannot be abandoned, but it also cannot be superseded by activists wearing robes. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, I do. I love the rule of law and I respect it greatly. And I say the things that I say about activist judges knowing that some people will disagree, but the reality is they are there. They are absolutely there. And you cannot tell me, for instance, that Federal District Court Judge Anna Reyes, with her on the record, evidence of activism, was the right one to try this case regarding transgenderism in the military. That's only one example. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. I'm going to go to the text lines here momentarily, but I got to tell you, Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald is the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue, and I know Stan personally. Look, he's a partner at the law firm of Wilbur and Lee, which is a great firm in Huntsville. He's a 30-year veteran of the practice of law, but Stan McDonald's also one of these guys who has been like in the mix, like in the trenches for years on the issues, the politics, the policies that Rightside ruffians care about. So yeah, he's an OG ruffian from way back. Attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say when Stan McDonald's on your side, you will have no greater friend, and likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So I'm going to tell you how to reach him. If you need an attorney in North Alabama, Stan McDonald, he's an America First family man. He's an attorney who's vigilant. And here's his phone number. You ready? Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. All right, I feel good about this one. You ready? No representation made. The quality legal service reform is greater than the quality legal service reform with other lawyers.
That was really good. Like a 9-2.
Woo!
Give it a 9-2 there.
What's it take to get a perfect 10? Is it possible?
I don't think it's possible.
Could I be the Mary Lou Retton of voiceover?
It'd have to be a spectacular effort.
You didn't catch the Mary Lou Retton thing,
No,
did you?
I didn't.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't even know who that is.
Is that before your time, I guess?
Yes.
Olympic gold medalist. Okay. America's darling, Mary Lou Retton.
I have to do some research.
Look up Mary Lou Retton. Just go ahead and look it up right now. I mean, she's probably in her 50s now, I'd imagine. But text line, Dave from Capshaw says, I'm on my way to Taco Bell right now. Good, man. Get you a Bell Beefer while you're there. Do they still serve Bell Beefers? I don't think they do.
I don't know. Probably not.
Probably not.
A lot of the good stuff Taco Bell has is limited and goes away.
Pretty sure Bell Beefers weren't meant for human consumption.
I'm a Doritos Locos taco guy. Always has been.
Doritos Locos Tacos.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Mathens texted in and said, Counselor, there is someone who comes from a family full of lawyers on both sides of my parents. This was outstanding, and I'm so deeply grateful for your commitment to the rule of law. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you very much. Jeff Rowe from Indiana says, Phil, there has to be judicial reform in this country because when you have blatant overstepping of authority and biased judges and prosecutors, there has to be consequences for their actions by either removing them from their office or the case, or even in extreme cases, they need to be jailed. If anyone wants to talk about dictators, a rogue judge making law from the bench is as close as you can get. Okay, so the bottom line is we have several things we'll talk about in a few minutes. Are there ways to handle this? I believe there are. I don't think we're going to be able to say that a judge gets jailed for making a decision we don't like there, Jeff Rowe. You know that. If you find out they took money for the decision, then yeah. But if they simply just ruled differently using their discretion as a judge to do so, then the process is called appeal. It just is.
And I'd rather win this way with the Supreme Court ruling against than anything, because this will stop any future endeavors to try to, rule that we can't deport, people out of the nation and stuff like that. So I'd rather win the right way and get it out of the way, in his first year of his term.
That's right. Absolutely. John from Huntsville says, Phil, fantastic monologue. Also, just want to let JP know I actually did not watch a single second of that basketball game last night, but unfortunately I did see on the news this morning the final score and the final play. So I guess the Charles Barkley curse is over and Phil's blue jersey theory was correct.
It was. And it was a great game. John missed a great game.
Well, I missed it myself. All right, more stuff. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean down to that loveliest little town on the plains we call Auburn, stretching across the border to what is now renamed Fort Benning. And yes, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. All right, we're going to jump on in here, but I got to get some more text messages because y'all are some texting machines here on a Taco Tuesday. Adam from Athens has said, had real tacos today, not the fake stuff at the Taco Bell. Fake? Is it fake?
Oh, it's not authentic. It's definitely not the top quality tacos for sure.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't serve some of that weirdness. I mean, how many times can they wrap something inside of a something and have a crunch and a soft all at the same time and then claim that it's legit?
Yeah. I will say, though, the Baja Blast drink from Taco Bell is one of the best drinks ever. So they have that going for them.
Are we doing like free ads at Taco Bell right now?
I guess so. It is Taco Tuesday. Maybe they can sponsor Taco Tuesday.
Thomas from Athens says, Counselor, why did not Trump embedded liberals not what? Why did not Trump embedded liberals not bring suit against Trump admin in a friendly venue just as soon as the EO was signed, thereby preventing these crazy injunctions? Wouldn't this prevent Dems bringing the same suit in their shopped-for judges' courts? I gotta go back and decipher what he's asking me. I mean, it's almost like you were speaking a different language, Thomas. I think what he's saying is, I don't know what he's saying. Why did not Trump embedded liberals? You know what, Thomas? I'm coming back to your text in a minute. I'm going to have to spend a minute on that one. Got a complainer who doesn't like the way we talk on the show.
Doesn't even deserve to get it right.
Won't tell us where he or she is from or what their name is. Just wants to complain and say we say the same things a lot. Okay. And doesn't even like it when I say solid conservative and just plain right. Okay.
I think he just likes to complain.
I think that's all he's got. He, she, it. JP, David at Bucky says, JP, the SEC is dominating more than just basketball. The SEC has a top-ranked teams in both men's baseball and women's softball. Not only that, 5 SEC teams, including Alabama, remain among the Elite 8 in women's gymnastics. Wow.
Yeah, so 8 of the top 10 baseball teams are SEC teams right now. So
but where are we in Frisbee golf? That's what I want to know.
Well, Auburn is the equestrian leader of the nation.
Well, by God.
So, yeah.
Don't forget that.
It's all sports.
They compete against at least 3 other colleges.
Yeah. Yeah.
David from Cortland, Alabama says, hey, Phil, you and JP are the gold medalists of radio. This is David Thompson. David from Cortland. David, thank you. We appreciate you. You're awesome. And then Jeff from Indiana checking in again says, hey, Phil, just think. You're voice texting. Which he needs to be voice texting because he's driving a truck.
It's true.
If Jeff's boss is listening, he's voice texting right now. Yeah. Just think, Phil, the judge can hold you in contempt of court for any reason he wants to, even if you looked at him wrong, and that to me is criminal. And that is not entirely accurate, Jeff. A judge who wants to abuse his authority by abusing people in his courtroom is not going to last long. And there's a thing in Alabama called the JIC, the Judicial Inquiry Commission. That's where you can file complaints against judges, and they'll have to review it. So you're not without recourse. And yes, a judge can run their courtroom, but a judge who's going to be a tyrant and yell at people or hold them in contempt for looking at them wrong is a judge who is probably not going to be long for the bench anyway. So just saying. And by the way, I've been in front of a bunch of judges, some of which were crotchety. I can think of one right now who was crotchety for no reason, just got crotchety. But then I've had other judges that were just like, how's everybody doing? Shake hands. All right, here we go. Let's talk. By the way, John from Huntsville says, Frisbee golf is my specialty, and I bet I can beat JP.
Probably could. I'm not a big Frisbee golfer. Can't say.
It's soon to be an Olympic sport, probably. Is it an Olympic sport?
I don't think so. Not now.
It's got to be at least an X Games sport.
Yeah, It's probably got. I mean, I know it has its own league because one of my childhood friends is in it. So.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's a
Okay.
big frisbee golfer. Yeah.
All right. Before I jump into the topic, activist judges, I'm going down that road here in just a minute. I got to get your take on last night's game. I did not get a chance to watch the game at all.
Yeah.
But
I had it running in the background while I was doing other stuff, but then the last, 10 minutes I locked in, focused on it. So Florida was getting manhandled for up until like 10 minutes left in the game. They were down 12, which I think is the third biggest deficit for a team to come back and win the national championship of. So they came roaring back, but then the ending was weird. Houston drew up a play. They had 13 seconds left. They were down 2. They drew up a play to get a 3-point shot. The guy shoots or is going to shoot the 3-pointer. Florida guy contests. While he's midair about to shoot, dribbles the ball. You're not allowed to pick it up after you do that. That's a travel. So then he's boxing out the Florida guys, trying to get a Houston guy to come get the ball. Florida ends up, just diving for it, grabbing it, and game's over. So it was a really bizarre ending to the game. But Florida, it was a great comeback. That's what Florida has done all year. They did against Auburn, too. They were down like 8 and came back and won.
so was it a game that was worthy of the hype?
Oh, yeah, it was a great
think
game.
so?
It was.
Like if you'd had tickets, it'd have been worth your time.
Yeah, I think with all the talk of only one season, the Final Four, I would say every Final Four game and the national championship game was like one of the best ones we've had in a long time. So having the best teams playing at the end was great to watch, fun to watch. So
4 number 1 seeds, can't beat it.
yeah, and Houston still hasn't gotten their championship, but Florida got their first since 2007. So.
I got nothing.
It's a great game. It's a fun game.
It's a good game. All right, listen, all I know is those of us that are Auburn fans, we lost to the national champions.
Yeah,
So
well,
there's
there you
that.
go.
Scott from Somerville says, I started a personal boycott of Taco Bell when they joined Pride Month and put pride flags on their drink cups and food wrappers. They've discontinued that now, but I haven't gone back. I did not know they did that. I am dismayed by that. But since I haven't been there in years, it really doesn't matter. Just saying.
I didn't know they did that either.
Since they got rid of the Chihuahua, yo quiero Taco Bell, I just,
Yeah.
anyway. And how many times, by the way, you see Taco Bell and KFC in the same building?
Yeah, they share a lease a lot of the
It's
time.
like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
You don't share ingredients, do you?
Who knows? Maybe they do.
Got a little beans in my chicken. All right, let's jump on in. Activist judges. Let's talk about activist judges for a minute. And there's a bill right now that's floating through the House, and I understood they were going to try and vote on it today, although I'm seeing no updates on it. So I'll just tell you this. The whole idea that a federal district court judge can issue a nationwide injunction on something that is not otherwise nationwide in scope is troublesome. It just is. There's no way around it. Now, there are going to be times when they can have a nationwide scope because there's no way around it. And I say that in, for instance, the context of the transgenders in the military. Well, you can't allow transgenders to be in the military in Texas and then it not be something that's really impacting nationwide. So anything enjoining the transgender policy in the military is probably going to be nationwide no matter what. But generally speaking, on situations like this deportation issue, you're not just going after the policy. You have to have a representative plaintiff. You have to have somebody standing in the shoes. And so the courts have now ruled that it's very likely that you're going to wind up having to have venue in the area where the parties who are being named are located. And oh, by the way, B, that you can't issue nationwide injunctions on everything. Let me rephrase. The court has not ruled that. The House has got a bill to work on that. The House has got a bill by Representative Darrell Issa today that would prevent the nationwide injunction from being a regular course of business. Okay, this is a bit dicey. I think there's going to be times when a nationwide injunction is the only way that an injunction could work, because to have patchwork quilt would be more detrimental than not. I think we also need to be careful of the fact that when we undo something, we're undoing something that we may want ourselves later. That being said, there's got to be a better way to do it. Because what I do agree with is the notion that one activist judge like this Judge Anna Reyes, I mentioned her to you in my monologue. Judge Anna Reyes is a literal activist. If you look at her history, she's on record as a openly gay judge saying that there is no such thing as just two genders, now ruling on transgenders in the military. What does that tell you? She's coming in with an absolute bias. She's also openly campaigned against Trump. She's also openly supported Democrat causes with her own personal finances to a pretty good degree. She's also been out there speaking on DEI and microaggressions and all kinds of other wokeisms. She is an activist judge. She should have recused. We shouldn't have to have a nationwide injunction on a sensitive issue that a judge has openly expressed bias on. And is so absolutely clouded in their judgment that we're sitting there just like rubbing our face like a face palm, trying to figure out how in the world this judge is the one that A, got assigned, and B, that got left with the case. All right. Typically speaking, it's the judge's job to recuse. But the parties can file a motion to recuse and put it on the record they think it's necessary. In this case, I also know that what the Trump administration did want, though, was they wanted to go to the higher court and try to get the thing dealt with on a broad level, and they did. Now, let me just say this. Here's a lesson for you in federal district court judges. A lot of people talk about how can they have so much power? Listen, there's an old axiom in the practice of law that the most powerful person in the world is a federal district court judge. Why? Why do I say that? Because a federal district court judge is the only one that can tell the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, what to do. Everything after that is just an appeal of what that judge did. So when something goes up to the 11th Circuit or wherever else, for appeal, or from there to the Supreme Court of the United States, what they're doing is they're appealing what happened at the lower level, AKA the federal district court. So when the district court judge enters a ruling, they can say, Mr. President, you cannot do this thing. The appellate courts either affirm or reverse that ruling. They don't make their own unilateral rulings sua sponte, they call it. Sua sponte means of their own accord. So the federal district court judge, how do we avoid having activists, single judges, somehow decide everything, including nationwide injunctions, when they're so biased? I think ICE's bill, I understand why ICE is doing. I get ICE's bill. I've not had a chance to read it, so I'm going on talking points as much as anything. But here's what I do like. Jonathan Turley, who I respect greatly, the Georgetown law professor who you often see on Fox and other networks, Jonathan Turley said that he believes that one of the better ways of handling this is to say that before a nationwide injunction can be issued, it has to be issued by a 3-judge panel at the least. In other words, one judge by themselves can't do it. It's almost like getting a second opinion in medical world. You want to know that more than one set of eyes and more than one signature is on the notion of something as broad and sweeping as a single judge. So I personally like that. I mean, at first blush, I like that. I like the idea of a 3-judge panel saying we will not issue that nationwide injunction until we've had a chance to agree and have at least a 2-to-1 majority rule on it. What that does is it also makes it harder to reverse.
Yeah, but then the rabbit hole continues of, well, the judges on that panel be biased, and it keeps going, and it's...
But the likelihood of having all 3 biased as opposed to just the one is more remote.
Yeah.
And you get an opportunity to present in a variety of facets and hit different markers, whereas one judge might not care as much about certain facts, the other judge might. Mm-hmm. One judge might not be as swayed by a certain legal precedent, the other judge might. And then they also come in with their own understandings of years of practicing law, and they bring in a perspective that might be different than the one by themselves. Yeah. And Anna Reyes should never have been by herself on this ruling about transgenders in the military. All right, we're going to take a break right now. We'll take the break. We'll come right back. I got more on this. Activist judges, I got several things for you to know, including recent rulings as of today. Yeah, I'm going to update you. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. All right, so we're going back to topic here. Activist judges, number one on the Triple Dipper. Activist judges. Listen, they're out there. And JP, I tell you what, I'm going to call up audio one. You got that one? How long is that thing, by the way? It's only like 21 seconds, isn't it?
No, this one's a minute 10.
Oh, that's a bigger one. We got it. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I want to lead off with a comment by Senator Eric Schmitt. And my recollection was he was also the Attorney General for the state of Missouri before he was a U.S. Senator. But Senator Eric Schmitt was on Fox News with Harris Faulkner talking about activist judges. And here's what he had to say. Go ahead.
Really, for the first 200 years of our country, we really didn't see any of this kind of stuff. This is a crisis of the 21st century, and specifically with liberal activist judges. In the first less than 100 days of President Trump's administration here, you've seen more injunctions than the 12 years between Obama's two terms and Joe Biden. So these judges are more than willing to play an outsized role beyond their Article III authority. So there's a few things that are happening. One is some legislation to say one single judge can't do this. Maybe you need a panel. That Senate Judiciary hearing that you heard, that you clipped up from last week, was Senator Grassley's legislation, which would say those district court judges really only have jurisdiction for the parties that are in front of them. I think broadly speaking, though, as these cases make their way up to the Supreme Court, President Trump is going to be successful because he's either operating as commander-in-chief with his Article II powers as the executive, or controlling the programming and personnel of the Article II branch. Unlike Joe Biden, who was trying to steamroll the Constitution by saying OSHA could force 100 million people to get a vaccine well beyond his authority, really what President Trump's trying to do is actually rein in the power of the administrative state. So I think he's going to be successful.
Okay, great layout. And he points out, I remember specifically when Biden stood there at a podium, soft selling the whole thing, talking about the mandatory vaccines and OSHA. And he even made the comment, some of my advisors have told me that this is probably not constitutional, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And we don't have that from Trump. He's moving forward with a well-researched plan, and it's starting to pay off already. So when we get back from the break here in a moment, I'm going to tell you we had two major decisions in the last 12 hours. Two major decisions from the Supreme Court that sort of backhanded the liberal judges who are making edicts that have nationwide impact, despite the fact that they've got a bias. Now, let me just point out that there's several things about these rulings that are interesting. Part of them are the content. Part of them are the fact, though, that we are setting new precedent, and that's a huge deal. When the Trump administration gets a Supreme Court precedent like what they got in the last 12 hours, what it means is for future administrations, these things can still happen, unless the Supreme Court rules that some nuance of it was different, and they do what's called distinguishing the case. I think what we're doing right now is we're watching Trump. As much as I would like these judges to be recused and to be thrown off the case, I like the fact that Trump is going through the process. I like the fact they're going to the appellate level. I like the fact that we're getting rulings, and I like the fact that these rulings have an air of finality to them. Now, we're not entirely done. These were preliminary injunctions that were being appealed. These weren't the final merits of the case. There was not a final order on the merits itself. But what we are watching, though, is a judge not being allowed to just simply stop things because they feel like it. It's a dynamic situation. It's a very fluid environment. But I got some news. As soon as we get back, I'll tell you all about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Taco Tuesday. And we got a new sound effect. I'm dying to hear it again. I know you did a short video, and it cracked me. I saw it this morning. It cracked me up. So yesterday, the president coined a new word. I'm going to get back to my topic here in a minute, but since I have no guests, I've got all the time in the world. He coined a new phrase yesterday, a new word, as he is wont to do. I love this. He was telling people not to panic about the tariffs and all that kind of stuff. And then he literally told Republicans to not be panicans. That's actually the sound of a screaming goat.
That's a real goat, by the way.
It's a real goat. We got that yesterday, and it still cracks me up. So now, anytime I say the word panicking, we're going to have that sound effect playing. My gosh.
It's a goat, but also, I mean, it's pretty much what every mainstream media talking head has been sounding like.
That's right.
Yes.
You know, things are out there. Tariffs and bad stuff and doom and gloom and everything's going to be bad and root canal and stuff and panicking. Okay. Wow. Okay. Listen, I was the reason why I thought of that just now is because I got to tell you guys about something new. So you may already be aware, I've said it before on the show, that the Rightside Radio, Rightside Media website, we have a merchandise store. Got a brand new shirt in. It's a really high quality, one of those real soft T-shirts. And the back of it is the history and the making of the American flag. I love it. It points out everything on there, like why there's this many stripes, why these colors are chosen for the field of blue. And anyway, all said and done, the shirt is very cool. And we were talking among the staff yesterday. We thought, you know what? With all the tariffs going on, everybody's worried about costs going up. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a tariff-free zone for our Rightside merchandise, and we're going to give a promo code. And I was thinking about making the promo code Panickin'. But I decided, no, that won't work. What can we do instead? And so Butters said, why don't we just make the word tariff? So here's the deal. If you want to go check out our merchandise, we got T-shirts, we got coffee mugs, we got the highball glasses engraved with the Rightside Media Bulletproof Influence logo, and it has a bullet embedded inside of the glass. If you want to look at our stuff and buy something right now, the promo code for a short time is tariff. If you type in the promo code tariff when you order it, you get an automatic 10% discount. So that is right now to relieve us of the panicking stress and give you an opportunity to buy something at a discount rate. So anyway, go check out rightside.media.org. That's our website, rightside.media.org. Go to the shop tab, pick something out, make you a purchase. It's like basically it's whatever you want to buy. It's with the promo code tariff. It is 10% off. Am I right in saying 10%? It is right.
My
I didn't just give away more money, did I?
No.
Okay. Phil, it's supposed to be 5%. Oh, shoot. Well, now it's 10. Anyway, that's for all of y'all. If you're listening on the show, we're not advertising that broad base right now. The first ones to go to it and get the 10% discount for tariffs. Whatever you do, don't be a panicking. You're so quick on that button, man. But let's go back to the Dipper. Activist judges. Let's finish this up. First of all, a couple things happened in the last 12 hours. Judge Boasberg, remember him? Judge Boasberg is the judge who is trying to shut down President Trump's efforts to deport illegal criminal aliens who are being deported to the El Salvador prison, SCOTUS prison, And Trump has been relying upon what is known as the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. 1798, yes, it is literally a nearly 227-year-old law. It's only been used 3 times in the history of our country: the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. In this particular case, Trump, using that law, has designated drug cartels, Tren de Aragua, MS-13 as foreign enemies. And think about it, there is precedent for this. Well, Phil, they don't have geographic territory. They don't have governance. They don't even have a flag. Well, how about ISIS? How about Al-Qaeda? Those are non-state actors, and they are indeed terrorist organizations. So the Alien Enemies Act declared that the MS-13 and Tren de Aragua and the rest of them are now alien enemies, and he's been able to snatch people up, and without the usual long duration of their due process and other, they're illegal. First of all, they're Tren de Aragua or MS-13, and then they're packed off to El Salvador. Judge Boasberg was trying to put a stop to that. Judge Boasberg is the one who's saying, "Turn that plane around." You know, that it was really kind of out of hand. Judge Boasberg got smacked last night by the Supreme Court because while the case is not over, and that's important to note, while the case is not over, the case has now been transferred out of his court and down to the Southern District of Texas. Whoop, whoop. And then it's also it was ruled by the Supreme Court that his injunction, his attempt to stop it in the meantime, that stay has been lifted and Trump can move forward. Can I have some applause for this? That was an absolute win. Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, it was an absolute win for the Trump administration. They went through the process, they got it done, and they got it done in tall fashion, man.
Real quick, I mean, you mentioned precedent in the last segment.
Yeah.
Since this isn't like a ruling on a final, stay, like it's not a ruling on the final, ruling of a case. What precedent does this set? Like, does this effectively set the precedent that presidents have, unilateral, authority to deport whoever he wants? Obviously, he can't deport U.S. citizens, but does this, set a precedent like whoever Trump wants to deport, if they're here illegally, he can deport them? Or is this not necessarily set that precedent, long term?
Okay, there's going to be 2 types of precedent here. All right, there's going to be the precedent that is lasting or is overarching, and then there's going to be situational precedent. All right. So the situational precedent that we have right now is that the court has looked at this and decided that the judge's ruling was, or his injunction was incorrect. And without ruling fully on the merits of the case, the court basically said, we see this as a law, and to get an injunction or to resist an injunction, whoever wins in that case or in the injunction fight has to be seen as having the likelihood of prevailing on the merits. Well, it's obvious the Supreme Court has now intoned to the lower court. We tend to see this as something that the Trump administration could very well prevail on the merits in the long run. That sends a signal to the lower court. Be very careful what you do, because if they appeal this up, you're likely going to lose. So there's that situational precedent. The other one, though, is what we just saw today is Judge Boasberg had it taken out of his court. He had to cancel a hearing today that was otherwise scheduled because the Supreme Court ruling said that the appropriate venue for any further proceedings like these would be the district in which the plaintiffs are subject to potential removal currently being held. In other words, Judge Boasberg, this is not your jurisdiction. Jurisdictional issues are soul-crushing for a judge. A jurisdictional issue means this judge does not even have the right to speak to this case anymore.
Now, where's Boasberg in D.C., right?
I believe Boasberg's in D.C.
Yeah.
So this federal district court judge has no right to even speak over this case. He can make no rulings. He has no jurisdictional authority over this case. And there's 2 types of jurisdiction. There's jurisdiction over the subject matter, and there's jurisdiction over the person. He has no jurisdiction in this case over the persons because they're being held in the Southern District of Texas.
Yeah.
So from now on, wherever the venue is where the plaintiffs are in the cases like this, that's where it has to go, which means they can't forum shop it into the D.C. courts.
Yeah, or some activist judge from Seattle says you can't deport the MS-13 folks from Texas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, you got two things there. You got a very situational, something that kind of speaks to the case that they need to think about. But then you also got an absolute that it does appear the Supreme Court is saying the appropriate venue for any such further proceedings will be where those people are being held or detained. So shoot, go build the prison in Alabama.
Yeah.
You'll know what you're probably going to get. And by the way, we have a couple.
Yeah.
So that was huge. That happened last night. That was Judge Boasberg getting backhanded by the Supreme Court. It's out of his case now, out of his courtroom. It has moved down, I believe, to the Southern District of Texas. I'm not sure if venue is transferred yet. I'm assuming the plaintiffs have to go ahead and pick up venue when they move, or I'm not sure if it's going to be reassigned immediately. But then the other one that happened today, where is this one? It wasn't even on my radar. But you may recall the Trump administration has been working to downsize government, to right-size government. And one of the things they did was the Trump administration went in and found all these bloated departments that had been hired with DEI hires and, using Inflation Reduction Act money and, all the things that happened, like, we're going to hire 87,000 new IRS agents and all the stuff that the Biden administration did. And so the Trump administration went in and said, okay, first of all of you that are probationary employees, I'm sorry, we're not going to keep you. You have a chance to reapply later, but we're not going to keep all the probationary employees. Tens of thousands nationwide, tens of thousands. It's tough love, man. But the Supreme Court ruled last night the president does have the authority to let those people go. So the Supreme Court on Tuesday sided with the Trump administration and upheld the massive firing of tens of thousands of probational federal employees who had been suing to get their jobs back. It's an amazing thing to think that the boss is not allowed to fire you.
So that one was ruled on the final merits of the case, right?
I think that one is done. I think that one is pretty clear.
So that one sets a precedent, like Trump can make these, or any president can make these decisions that he wants.
It would appear so.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of the high court ruled the plaintiffs, which were 9 nonprofit organizations who had sued to reinstate, also lacked standing to sue. So there's that. So the idea that the president has no authority to terminate employees who are under his watch appears to have been rejected, and the standing issue was also addressed. So that's two big things. And by the way, that's huge. Both of those are huge. The Trump administration has taken the victory lap and well deserved. We'll take a break right now. We'll come back from the break, and I got a little more on this topic because there's a little more on this topic. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, so, immediately upon receiving the judge's order, the Trump administration got to work. The judge's order about the deportation of criminal illegal aliens. For instance, exclusive to Fox News, Dateline this morning, the Department of Homeland Security and the Internal Revenue Service quickly came to an agreement about how to access taxpayer information about illegal immigrants. Now, I did not know this, but the IRS actually collects taxes to some degree from people who are here illegally, and they are willing now to turn that over. Of course, it's got to be looked at. How do you abide by, the privacy laws and all that kind of stuff? But immediately, the Trump administration began using the whole of government approach to going after it. And then you got a situation I'm still getting my head around it. I'm still trying to figure out, was this really a mistake, or was it something that could have been done differently or better, or for that matter, does it need to be undone at all? But there's a guy named Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's a Maryland resident, and I say resident because that's where he lived, not that he was a citizen. But he was scooped up in the initial wave of deportation to the El Salvador prison, and there is some understanding now that he should have not been in there because he was here with a legal status. I think the legal status was just simply that he had been granted asylum by the Biden administration, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't like he was on a green card anyway, I could be wrong, but the reality is this has become quite the thing. The liberals are saying, this is clear evidence that the Trump administration doesn't care about people. They'll send anybody down. They could scoop up a U.S. citizen. No, they won't, jackass. That's not what's going to happen. But the fact is, we do have an order from Chief Justice John Roberts blocking the lower courts from requiring Trump to go get him and bring him back from El Salvador right now. How about that? That's another example of the Trump administration is working the appeals process, and the appeals process is working. Good stuff. Now, there's probably going to be something come along that we're going to look at and go, holy crap. But right now, the Trump administration is prevailing on the things that it's trying to do. This guy, Abrego Garcia, I don't know his full status. We'll find out more. But there's been some indication that the DOJ's attorney said that this had been done incorrectly. Like, why would you do that? Why do you go to court and go, yeah, judge, we really did screw that one up. I got that one wrong. Well, this particular guy, Auguste Flintye, that's his name, was suspended. Auguste Flintye, who was the attorney for the DOJ in the Immigration Litigation Division, was basically put on leave by Attorney General Pam Bondi because he failed to zealously pursue the interests of the state. In other words, he went to court and he didn't really do a good job. So what I'm loving here is the Trump administration is saying, look, if you're not going to do the job, then we don't need you. So how about you just go to the House? Plenty more on this stuff. I will say this. One of the last things I'll point out is I got this article from Daily Signal, Dateline yesterday, and this is Jonathan Turley, I mentioned earlier. George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley urging Congress and the White House to not just go to war with the judiciary, because everybody on the bench is not a bad judge. And sometimes there will be decisions we don't like, but that's part of the rule of law. But the ones who are overreaching and how to deal with that, this is where Jonathan Turley was advocating for something more along the lines of national level injunctions being done by a 3-judge panel as opposed to one judge having complete sway. I agree with that. I think that's a great idea. And I what I don't agree with, though, is trying to break the system that is still the best one in the nation. It has got warts and blemishes. I am first to admit it. And I've seen some of them. And I've seen people get swept up, and look at the Jan 6ers. The Jan 6ers are a classic example of people who got swept up and they shouldn't have. It is still the best system in the world. And I don't want to just break it because we don't like the decisions we get. Let's go ahead and make it better. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Whew, Lord, goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean down to that loveliest little town we call Auburn on the plains. And oh yes, oh by the way, across the border to what we now recall Fort Benning. And then there's big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. All right, so let me go to the phones real quick before I switch gears. Line one, Mike from Harvest. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, Senator Williams. How are you, sir?
I'm good. What's on your mind, man?
Well, the gentleman, if I'm recalling correctly, the gentleman that you were discussing from Maryland was a member of the MS-13 gang, and
yeah,
he was afraid to go back. He couldn't go back home because rival gangs would kill him.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that's a real reason not to send him back, but you know.
Well, you know that's so. Here's the thing. I think what we're dealing with here is he was an asylum seeker, and under the Biden administration, all you had to do was say you were scared, and you had reasonable grounds to believe your personal safety was at risk if you went back to your home country. I had JP look it up for me real quick to make sure I was remembering this correctly. But yeah, the guy apparently is an MS-13 member. He admitted that, but there was another gang called Barrio 18 that he said was threatening his life, and so he fled the country and came to the United States. You know what? Maybe, yeah. But I think what we're looking at here is anything and everything. All you had to do was say, I'm scared, and you got asylum under the Biden administration.
Well, of course he was scared of the other gang. They were the other gang, that was running the country at the time.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. I don't know what's going to happen with the guy. I mean, if he was wrongfully swept up, then my heart goes out to him, and I'd love to see it fixed. But he was still here in our country illegally, and was just in a legal status because the Biden administration had given him a pass. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for the call, Mike. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. You have a wonderful day, sir.
You too. Take care. Steve from Tennessee, by the way, heard our goat scream earlier. And he says, your goat scream sounds like the South Carolina man that was near the F-35 crash. Oh, I remember that.
I don't know what
Wait,
we're talking about
I?
Here.
There was I think it was a Ring doorbell, and the guy screamed just like that. And he made a scream like that. He said to describe the plane flying over, you got to hear the guy. I think I did hear that, Steve, and it is hilarious. He sounded a lot like this.
You got to give me a head up there. I got to get ready. Say it again.
Were you not ready?
No, I was not.
Okay, it sounded a lot like this. Jim from Athens checking in. He says, colors of our flag. Red represents hardness, valor, and courage. White symbolizes purity and innocence. Blue signifies vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Take a look at the back of one of our new Rightside Media shirts, Jim. I think we described it. And for all of y'all out there, by the way, apparently a bunch of y'all went and bought T-shirts.
Yeah, the orders are coming in with
right after we announced the promo code. Yeah. So you are getting your tariff relief from Rightside as we give you a promo code for a 10% discount. Tariff relief from Rightside at the Rightside merchandise store. I'll tell you more about it later, but anyway, 10% off with the promo code tariff. Jeff from Indiana says, hey, Phil, as far as the contempt of court goes, I've watched a judge on YouTube before and I guess he means before and after sentencing a woman, told her goodbye, and she said adios, and that was the only thing she did. He brought her back and gave her 30 days for that.
I've seen that video. It's a pretty viral video.
Well, you know what? If the judge, like I said, if the judge is being a tyrant, someone needs to complain.
To be fair, she was being disrespectful, and there was part of the video where she flicked him off while he wasn't looking before she walked off.
Well, okay then.
And said it like adios, like in a rude way. So
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Brad from Laredo, Tennessee says, going back to our earlier conversation, he goes, Taco Bell and KFC are in the same building because they're both owned by Pepsi. I'm aware. He says it's cheaper to put them both in the same building. I'm aware. He says Pepsi bought out Taco Bell and KFC not to make the food any better, to make a bunch of money off the food, but so they could force the restaurants to serve their drinks to compete with Coke. Yes, I'm aware. I won't tell you what I think about Pepsi, but let's just say it ain't my favorite.
No, it's not mine either. I least favorite soda probably.
It's the kind of thing when you go in the restaurant and go, excuse me, do you have Coke products here? No, sir, we serve Pepsi. Never mind, I'll have tea.
Yeah.
That's,
I'll have a water,
I'll
thank
have
you.
a water, thank you. Thomas from Athens says, a good offense is a good defense. Why not Trump administration get some folks to bring a suit against the Trump administration? What?
This is in response to his earlier text you couldn't understand. I understand what he's trying to say now.
But you please, let me use my interpreter.
Yeah.
What is he saying to me?
So I think he's saying after the executive order was signed, why didn't a friendly court bring a suit against the Trump administration and get a no injunction to, quote, stall Trump? And would this tactic prevent a Dem from bringing suit regarding the same EO and their favorite, quote, activist judge's venue, wherein they don't get injunction to stall Trump, if that makes any sense.
You didn't interpret, you just read it to me.
No, but he's saying bring it in a friendly court, so instead of this activist judge who's actually trying to stall Trump, have a friendly court bring that, and so it can get shot down quickly and he can just move on, is what he's trying to say.
Okay, so I think what you're talking about is forum shopping. And forum shopping is actually a violation of the law. Mm-hmm. You can't just go and now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying if it's blatant, if you're forum shopping, we just had a situation in Alabama most recently on the transgender protection for minors, where the judge slapped around some of the plaintiffs because they were forum shopping. They were trying to get the judge they wanted. And so if that's what you're saying to me, you can't do that. And the Supreme Court kind of took care of that today with the jurisdictional issue. They said, you know what? If the plaintiffs in the case are being detained down yonder in South Texas, guess what? That's the venue. Get it out of Judge Boasberg court. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Are you certain?
I'm certain, yes.
Okay, great. David from Cortland checking in again. He says, hey, if you guys are ever passing through, you can stay in the plantation house built in 1825 in Cortland, Alabama. How about that? Thank you, David. We appreciate you, man. Cortland's a beautiful area, by the way.
I don't believe I've been.
There's some rolling cotton fields there, man. It's beautiful. All right. Guess what? We got to do something here. It is time. I haven't had to do this as much, but I kind of gathered up some things when I was working on the show. I thought, whoo, look at that one. What did they do in Colorado? What did they do? All the wokeness. And I saw wokeness here and I saw wokeness there. And I looked at it and I thought, now, wait a minute. I got a vast cornucopia of wokeness. I got a plethora, a buffet, if you will, of wokeness. And I realized what I've got is a round of adventures in woke world.
Adventures in woke world.
Yeah, just because Trump got elected doesn't mean the wokest aren't still out there. They are. They're trying hard. And in some places, there are pockets, if you will, of wokeness. This one comes from the Daily Signal, Dateline yesterday. I don't know what happened to Colorado. How did we lose Colorado?
I don't know, but it's sad.
They got Rocky Mountain High, didn't they? It's really messed up.
They have Colorado Springs, which is like one of the most red parts of the country. But other than that, they're pretty much alone.
It's one of my favorite places in the world to go to Colorado, but not for the politics. How about this? The Colorado House of Representatives passed a bill this past weekend. Apparently they did it on Sunday. Passed a bill that would remove kids from their parents' custody because the parents do things like misgendering or dead naming them. And they cite the Southern Poverty Law Center as the resource they use to make their determinations. What in God's name? First of all, the Southern Poverty Law Center, if you're not familiar, based out of Alabama, but the SPLC has been notorious for years for being a liberal hate group of its own that puts out what they call their hate map, and they include things like Alliance Defending Freedom, Moms for Liberty, right alongside things like the KKK. What? Okay, that makes no sense whatsoever. By the way, the Southern Poverty Law Center has made bazillions. They have a lot of money on offshore accounts, and they make it off of these massive lawsuits they keep filing to promote liberal causes. And then, oh, by the way, they had an implosion in the last couple of years where there were complaints of discrimination within their own staff. But hey, Southern Poverty Law Center. Anyway, the SPLC is the source for the Colorado representatives who passed a bill. Now get this. This is how woke they are in the Colorado legislature. On a party line vote, They're trying to codify into law that the transgender ideology that might be confusing a child, that parents are not allowed to have a say in it. So, okay, let's see. You won't give a minor a driver's license. You won't give a minor a Costco card. A minor can't enter into a contract. A minor can't get married. A minor can't drink or join the military. A minor can't do any of these things by law, even in Colorado. But apparently in Colorado, the representatives believe it's very important that the child be able to decide that they are gender fluid, and that's just the way it's going to be. And if you dead name them, or if you misgender them, they're going to remove them from the parent's custody. This is literally moving kids into almost like they're being trafficked right out of the parent's house. And the state is taking custody of the child. It's like the state has suddenly enslaved the child and bound the parents away from being able to see their own kids. It's absolutely coercive. And by the way, what is dead naming anyway? Kid comes to you, go, I want to be called Batman from now on. I'm sorry, your name is Johnny. No, I'll be called Batman. You can't dead name me. My name is Batman. I mean, so little Johnny wants to be Julie, and now you have to call your son Julie, or you're dead naming, and you could lose your child.
They see Johnny as dead and Julie as them. So
I understand what they say, but that does not make it realistic.
Unfortunately, I've had to hear them talk about that. With them meaning, I've had them explain it to me, because unfortunately in school and others, yes, transgenders, and so that's how they view it. It's like Johnny's no longer alive. So
yeah, which is ridiculous. But at the same time, guess what? The parents are still going to be held to account for the custody of the child. Mm-hmm. So let's get this straight. If the parents, if the child ran amok, who do you think the parents are going to, or who do you think they're going to call? I'm going to back up. Who's the school going to call? The parents. If the child breaks the law and does something down at the mall or steals a car, who's going to get called? The parents. If the child has a medical bill, who has to pay it? The parents. And yet, in this case, if the parents who have purview and right over everything there say, I'm sorry, your name is actually Johnny. Well, you're dead naming me. And the legislature in Colorado thinks it's okay to say, well, you're not going to be a parent anymore. I tell you what, get your kids out of Colorado. How about that? Now, it hasn't passed the Senate. It had passed the House, though, and it passed it with a pretty overwhelming majority. Party line, but we'll see where it goes. But they even, by the way, one particular sponsor, Representative Yara Zokayi, a Democrat, compared the parental rights groups who were there in opposition to the bill to the KKK. That's where they are. Parents are the KKK. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, we're taking a break right now. Take me to the break there, JP. We'll take a break, come right back. I got adventures in woke world, man. Wait till you hear about the anti-Trump activist and what she claimed of herself so proudly, and now she might get deported. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Hey, I'm going to the phones real quick. He hung on during the break, so don't want to make him hang on longer. Let me just see what Daryl from Tony's got going on. Daryl, how you doing?
Hey, Colonel. Good to talk to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been listening to your show most of the way home, and it's good to hear about some of these wins the Trump administration's getting.
Yeah.
But what's really gotten into my craw is about these courts and these states trying to take jurisdiction over children.
Yeah.
Mine are all grown now. I'm 67, and to listen to some of this, isn't this these cases where the parents can take this thing all the way to the Supreme Court and say, look, you're overstepping your bounds. This is overreach.
Oh, I think they absolutely would. I think it would go to the state Supreme Court first. I think this is this thing about the dead naming from Colorado you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
I think that there's an absolute case there. Now, you're going to have standing. You're going to have to be someone who's been aggrieved by it, like maybe your child's been taken in this state-sponsored kidnapping of children. But I do believe that it would absolutely be appealable, and I think the parents would win.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's kidnapping, state kidnapping of children. It's just appalling to think that they can do this. But you know what? The Supreme Court, or hopefully, it will get settled.
Well, and I think it will. And by the way, it hasn't passed the Senate out there, just the House. So I hope that the usually more contemplative body of the legislature, the Senate, is going to wind up shooting this thing down or just letting it die on the vine. But right now, it did pass the House, and it's shocking they would get that far. But Daryl, thanks. Go ahead.
It puts parents in fear. That's it. It's awful.
And it shouldn't. And I think what we're going to find is that the courts would agree. And if they don't, it'll go all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. The parental authority is not going to be just trashed by some wokists in a state legislature. It's not going to hapen. It has to be fought.
All right, sir.
All right, bud.
Thanks for taking my call.
All right, safe drive. See you, man. I got a bunch of texts coming in on that one. Apparently that one raised some eyebrows. But let me tell you about a couple more because we're in the middle of Adventures in Woke World.
Adventures in Woke World.
Are you just trying to scarf up extra points from John today? Is that what's happening right now?
I heard my cue.
You can do that in your sleep, couldn't you?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm gonna just program your phone to yell "Adventures in Woke World." And you'd be reaching for a button at 3 a.m. How about this one? Daily Caller, Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's. I quit eating any Ben & Jerry's. I mean, I'm not a huge ice cream eater anyway, but I quit going to Ben & Jerry's. They had one in Birmingham I used to haunt once in a while. Not going to do it anymore because they are so overwhelmingly woke liberal, nut jobs that I just wasn't going to do it. Well, what I did not know was the Ben & Jerry's co-founders, were actually barred from being able to speak on behalf of the company anymore. Did you know that?
I did see that, yeah.
Did you?
Y'all are dragging sales down. What are y'all doing?
They're crushing. At some point, someone with common sense goes, look, fellas, we got to sell some ice cream. That's why we exist.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they probably looked around and saw Dylan Mulvaney. They're like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Tell Ben and Jerry to shut up. But anyway, the end result of this is they want their messaging back. Well, they got on a total activist streak for a while. It was like they were mutually proud of how activist they could be. But it became a huge corporate liability for a company called Unilever that bought them out a few years back. And Unilever finally said, enough. And so I find this to be hilarious. It's not a repression of their First Amendment rights, but the company, I am sure, probably has something in their purchase agreement that gives them a right to say cease and desist on certain actions that could hurt the brand. And pretty much what happened was, after 40 years of social activism, they are finally getting their comeuppance because capitalism took over. And I find that to be hilarious. Anyway.
Yeah, Disney could have learned a lesson from that to shut up the Snow White actor, Rachel Ziegler, who went on her political stuff and caused sales to go down.
And crushed that movie.
Yes.
Crushed that movie. Yeah. By the way, Unilever has a $7.5 billion ice cream business. They have multiple companies, apparently. But all this to say, Ben and Jerry, shut your yapper. We got to sell some ice cream. Do I have time for any more? What have I got?
Here comes the music right here.
Oh, well, have mercy. Listen, I got a half pound right here. I got a half pound of wokeness. So when we get back, we'll have more adventures in woke world. You guys stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on a Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, because it's always about food, it seems like. But yeah, hour number 3, still in a Dipper number 2, Adventures in Woke World. Before I do that, though, I gotta make an announcement. So we got a lot going on at Rightside Media. That's the parent company of Rightside Radio. So Rightside Media's got a ton of stuff going on. We got podcasts, we've got written work, we got this radio show. This radio show you're listening to right now, Rightside Radio, is only one of our productions. So I want to encourage you, check out the rightsidemedia.org website, rightsidemedia.org. All our stuff is on there, to include, and here's the announcement, to include the merchandise store. So we're sitting around and we were talking amongst ourselves. We said, selves, what do we do about quelling all of the panicins, about tariffs? Well, how about this? We'll give them a tariff-free zone. So we put a 10% discount promo code on the merchandise shop, and the merchandise promo code is tariff. So go to rightsidemedia.org, go to the shop. And we got T-shirts, we got hats, we got coffee mugs, we got the Ben Shot glasses for bulletproof influence, and all of them right now with a promo code of tariff. Use the word tariff, get the promo 10% off your purchase. And we're trying to quell the fears of having tariffs. So we're giving tariff-free zones, except that it has a tariff promo code in the merch store. Rightsidemedia.org. Check it out. Apparently a bunch of y'all did, because Butters texted us and said shirts were flying off the shelf a little while ago. So you might want to get them before your size is out. We just got this batch in like 2 days ago.
I know. It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. All right, Adventures in Woke World. You may want to know that I got to spread the love here. Let's talk about the Green New Steel. Oh, my goodness, the Green New Steel. Yes. How about this one? From the Free Beacon, Dateline last Thursday. Green energy company on the brink of bankruptcy months after winning a $375 million Biden loan. God almighty. Our tax dollars, y'all, were just being used like toilet paper over the last 4 years. Unbelievable. But so the company, what's the name of it? Li-Cycle Holdings. Li-Cycle Holdings is one of those green energy companies that was making a mint because they were being underwritten by the U.S. government. They got a flurry of last-minute loan approvals totaling over $20 billion. My gosh. The things we could do, JP. The things we could do.
Well, just a fraction of that.
We'll just settle for half.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the Biden loan office gave out $20 billion in last-minute loan approvals as a part of things. There was a company called Li-Cycle. Li-Cycle CEO AJ Kochar said he was initially reluctant to apply for the loan because they were struggling financially, but apparently it didn't stop him. How about this? Yeah, my company's doing really bad, and I just don't know if I should apply for that taxpayer-funded loan, but you know what? Heck, why not? $375 million later, they are applying for bankruptcy. Wow. It's woke world, and it ain't always good. How about this one? Woke politicians are everywhere, including in places like our listening area. Oh, stop it. I kid you not. How about this? From the Woke Spy, wokespy.com, Dateline last Thursday. Georgia Dems walk out of the chamber in support of sex changes for criminals. They've got nothing else to work on, apparently. Here's an idea. Let's boycott the legislation. Let's all take a walk because we want to have those prisoners get state-funded transgender surgeries. Come on. That's Georgia. That's our listening area.
Unfortunately, Georgia also has 2 Democratic senators, so, they did vote red last time, but Georgia's got a lot of them, a lot of those radical Democrats.
You are reminding me, yes. Democrats across the country are playing backwards morality day every day, they say in this article. Here's how you can play along. Just find an unsympathetic cause, find equally unsympathetic monstrous people, call the monstrous cause unsavory people marginalized and victims, and then Dems go all in. Classic case, you've got a situation right now where Democrat politicians at the state level in Georgia decided that they were going to throw a fit and walk out of the chamber to protest a Republican-backed bill. What was the bill? A bill to stop taxpayer funding of sex change surgeries for prison inmates. Yes, I kid you not. That really happened. And so all the leftists got up and left.
The hills, they're willing to die on.
Yes.
It's like they go to the extreme, like literally 3% of the nation, if even that would agree with them. And they're like, oh, that's it. I've had enough. Walking out.
Like this one. From Red State. Redstate.com, Dateline again, last Wednesday, this case. The Democratic Party has filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump. Over what, pray tell? What, JP? What could it be? They want to prevent Trump from stopping illegals from voting.
Yeah.
The suit filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia cites several plaintiffs, including most notably the Democrat National Committee, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. They are all named as parties in the lawsuit. In the United States of America, the president does not get to dictate the rules of our elections, the court filing reads. The framers foresaw that self-interested, self-aggrandizing leaders might seek to corrupt the Democrat processes. And then they go on and take issue with the election executive order that Trump put in place that prohibits or requires proof of citizenship. So what they're saying is basically, we don't want proof of citizenship in our elections.
We want to cheat.
That's
Yeah.
what here's the thing. Dems always call for how would I word this? Dems will always seek what I would call the lowest level of engagement and then claim that there's victims. In so doing, they insult people by claiming that they are victims.
Yep.
So in this case, what they're really arguing here is it's hard to prove you're a citizen. That requires a piece of paper. Not everybody has the piece of paper. What should we do? Well, we're government, so we'll put it down way, way, way down low and pretend that it's too hard and no one needs to do it. And basically they insult everybody by doing that. And
they think you're stupid that you'll buy that lie. When it really is, they want cheating in their elections.
Oh, how about Gavin Newsom? Whoa. Gavin Screwsome. All right, Gavin.
Wait, what was the name? Knucklehead Newsom, was that the one we coined last week?
Who did that?
Yeah.
Did I do that?
It was Knucklehead Newsom.
I may have.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's very angry right now. I'm sure
what?
on his podcast he's got something to say because he's angry because apparently Donald Trump is shutting down federal funds to Planned Parenthood. And abortion, it's the only thing they got.
Yeah.
And when it's your only platform issue and someone's taking away the funding, well, now. So anyway, he calls it just plain cruel. Just plain cruel. Newsom said Title X funds for basic reproductive care, including birth control, cancer screenings, STDs, and, oh, by the way, abortion, are absolutely necessary. No, they're absolutely not. They're really not. You got the most divisive topic, and you also got federal law that says we can't use federal funds for these things, and yet we keep funding Planned Parenthood. Well, they don't use it all for abortions. Money's fungible. Yeah, I got news. You take it away, see how much fungibleness you have left.
I mean, they are the leader in abortions.
Oh, gosh, yes. Someone who founded Planned Parenthood is rotting in hell right now.
Mm-hmm. But they want to use you're taking away money for mammograms, you're taking away money for all this other stuff to try to hide the fact how much they're spending that on abortions.
Last couple. Daily Wire, Dateline, Sunday. After a poor showing on the boys' teams, a male switches to girls' varsity and takes first place. Go figure. High school-age transgender athlete identifying as a female reportedly came in last place against JV boys 2 years before he switched to compete against varsity girls. Zachary Rose, who now identifies as Leah Rose, formerly competed against boys at the Ida B. Wells High School in Portland, Oregon. But now it's Leah Rose. And Leah, who is 2 inches taller than anybody else on the track team, has been out there competing with girls and basically just setting records.
It's funny, the thing
Kinda
that
gross.
the thing that Democrats say never happens keeps happening, of men playing in women's sports.
There's nobody being disenfranchised. No girls are losing their scholarships or getting to have to abdicate their medals. If they want to compete, they just need to compete harder. Knuckleheads. Last one I've got, I saved it for last. The title alone is worthy of being called Adventures in Woke World. It just is. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Fox News, Dateline, 2 days ago. Anti-Trump activist boasts of being undocumented, unafraid, and queer at her rally. She goes to the microphone. I'm an immigrant. This is a quote from Grisa Martinez Rosas. I'm an immigrant. I'm undocumented. I'm unafraid. I'm queer and unashamed. Why is this her speech?
She almost checked all the boxes there.
This is at the Hands Off rally, by the way. What's the Hands Off rally? The Hands Off rally is protesting Elon Musk and Trump policies. And so she's going to check all the boxes she can.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to get up there and go, I'm an immigrant. I'm undocumented. I'm unafraid. I'm queer and unashamed. And oh, by the way, she may be subject to deportation now.
What do you think was going to happen?
I don't know, but I look at this and go, all right, I get it. You're from Hidalgo, Mexico. You came to the U.S. as a child. You were raised here, but you've never been a legal citizen. And for some reason, you're proud of that. I'm really not sure why. Why are you proud of that? I'm sitting here doing nothing to better my situation in life except rail against the machine, and I am so proud. I mean, here's an idea. Maybe apply for citizenship a long time ago.
But then she wouldn't be a victim anymore.
Well, you know what? She's apparently a professional victim, and she got all her intersectionalities going. She's undocumented. She's unafraid. And she's queer and unashamed. My God. Anyway, bottom line is social media went wild. People saying things like, deport her, lock her up. Others quipped that her public declaration was likely to land her on the radar of ICE. The only thing she didn't tell ICE is her home address, said one ex-user. I'm confident they can look her up. We'll see what happens.
By the way, sorry, real quick, did you see the viral clip from one of the hands-off rallies of the cacistocracy sign?
I did.
And the guy,
I did.
The guy had to get a paper to read off what it meant.
He didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, but that is the first time I've ever seen that out. Besides us talking about it, and
I'm pretty sure that one of our liberals who listens to this show, Shag Nasty or somebody, maybe our yellow dog friend, made sure they knew the word and tried to reapply it, and it didn't work, and they couldn't even say it, so they had to read it off a script.
I found that hilarious.
What was also funny was when the lady walks up and she's got the microphone, and she goes, "What does your sign mean?" Well, and the other lady with him goes, "Read the script so you know it right."
Yeah.
And then he pulls a piece of paper out to read it.
Reads it from the paper. Yeah, that's funny.
All right, we're taking a break. That's Adventures in Woke World. We'll come back and we're going to get some text messages and get caught up and move to number 3, waste, fraud, and abuse. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making the world better every time I speak. I lost my train of thought.
That's another way of saying changing the world one
Changing the world one soundbite at a time. Thank you so much. All right, listen. Every once in a while, I got too much stimuli in here. I happened to look over. I was reading the text messages. The TV was on in front of me, and then I was trying to say something all at the same time. Holy smokes. I can do a lot at one time, but sometimes there's a limit. So let me do this. I'm going to get text messages here in a minute, but I gotta start touching base on Dipper number 3 because it's something else, man. Doge. Oh, we have a sound effect for Doge. All right, well, tell you what. Doge.
Doge. Doge.
You may be really hitting your prime with the sound effects lately.
Entering my prime.
You know,
Man, I'm in my prime.
Did you just go all Tombstone on me again?
I told you. I just rewatched
it. Doge has really got it going on right now. And there have been quite a few things happening. Number one, some of these activist judge things we talked about. Well, an appellate court just cleared away another federal district court judge ruling because you may recall that Doge has been trying to gain access to the Office of Personnel and Management, OPM, in order to assess, staffing and see whether there's any, anything that needs to be culled or downsized or streamlined. And they were blocked from doing so by a federal district court judge because there had been a lawsuit, people claiming their personal data was being accessed. Well, okay. Anyway, 3-judge panel blocked the lower court decision that had halted the Doge access. And so OPM, Treasury, and Education Department employees can now be fully assessed and accessed by Doge. Well, so what's my point in this? I'm less about right now the fact that Doge is looking at those particular departments, more about the fact that once again, the Trump administration is working hard to do things and do it in the right way, and the appellate courts are agreeing. I don't know if we're going to win everything, but daggone, we're winning a lot. I mean, right now they are near batting 1,000 when it comes to the appeals processes, and that's nothing but good. So good for Doge, glad of it. By the way, here's a piece from the Daily Wire. Dateline yesterday. Doge officials announced more than 1 million migrants are on Medicaid and thousands are on the voter rolls. They can see it now. They're getting access to this stuff. So an official with Doge said that millions of migrants are currently receiving taxpayer-funded Medicaid benefits while thousands are on voter rolls across the country and are illegally voting in American elections. I have no doubt. I have no doubt whatsoever this is happening. No doubt. So the bottom line is in some states, they opened up the door to Medicaid access. Remember, Medicaid is applied at the state level. It's got a federal match to it, but it's administered at the state level, using state funds also. And so some states are giving out benefits, and then also there are fake Social Security cards out there. Over 1 million migrants have now been given access to Medicaid benefits, says this one official. We mapped this through the benefit program. We found that every benefits program being accessed by these people, 1.3 million are on Medicaid right now. That's taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants who did nothing to contribute to the system. And then he says, we went on to explain that thousands of those migrants have also been found on voter rolls as well. Let me tell you one of the things that our Secretary of State in Alabama discovered was that under the Biden administration, those who signed up for Medicaid were being given voter registration forms. And no questions asked. Didn't care whether you were here legally or even asked the question. They were just being given the voter registration. Well, all that did was incentivize people to fill out the form, some of which shouldn't have been getting Medicaid and therefore AKA shouldn't have been getting voter registration. Doge is finding stuff out. But when I get back from this break, I'll tell you about the money they've been finding. Holy smokes. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. Right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all don't talk about this show. Whew. Goes from Huntsville all the way back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa all the way back over to Gadsden. I mean to say all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn. And oh, yes, indeed, stretching across the border to what has now been renamed Fort Benning. And then there's big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, a ton of y'all are texting in, 833-687-4448. I'm going to get to those in just a minute. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it, same number for both. Got to finish up Doge, though. Here's a few things for you. You might want to know. How about this one? Fox News, Dateline yesterday. Doge cuts $51 million from U.S. African Development Foundation. But, Phil, they need it in Africa. Do they? Do they really? And it was things like, $229,000 to market 100% organic shea butter in Burkina Faso. What is shea butter? Does anybody know what shea butter is? What is that?
All I know is it's a butter. Couldn't tell you anything more than that.
I can't believe it's not butter. It's spelled S-H-E-A, shea butter. What is that? Is that goat butter?
Is a fat extracted from the nut of the African shea tree.
In God's name. So $229,000 to market 100% organic shea butter, $246,217 spent on mango drying facilities in the Ivory Coast, $239,738 spent on marketing pineapple juice in Benin. This goes on and on and on. Also, $10 million for gender equity in the Mexican workplace. This is not just Africa. Now we're branching out. Gender equity in Mexico. Dude.
That's
$10 million.
That honestly, with the other stuff, nothing surprises me anymore with what we've been spending money on.
How about $12.2 million for worker empowerment in South America? What does that mean?
Worker
unionization? Unionization? Is that what that is?
Unionization.
We're going to help you unionize, fellers. Come on down. Mi casa, su casa. Okay, $6.25 million for improving respect for workers' rights in agricultural supply chains in Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. What does that even mean? Who writes this crap? I mean, somebody with their liberal arts underwater basket weaving degree went to work and said, I know what I can do. I can help you write crazy titles for grants. How about one we call Improving Respect for Workers' Rights in Agricultural Supply Chains? What's that?
That is the ultimate niche.
That's called treating farmhands right. That's all that is. Treat your farmhands nicely. As of Monday, Doge claims it has now saved Americans $140 billion. That's the equivalent of $870 per taxpayer citizen. But wait, there's more. Did I mention there's more?
There's got to be more.
There's always more. How about this one, straight off the Doge website? Contract update. Today, agencies terminated 60, this is Dateline 2 days ago actually, terminated 63 wasteful contracts with a ceiling value of $124 million. Things like, I don't know, how about the marketing consultant contract for Google AdWords management at HHS for $1.9 million? How about the consulting contract for global advisory and support services for the Republic of Palau in the Micronesia region for the State Department? But wait, there's more.
Pray tell.
Pray tell, he says to me. I'm about to get into your SEC, by the way.
Oh, really?
Hang tight. Doge, according to its post last Thursday, has canceled $25 million in DEI grants for different things like, for instance, $265,000 for Queens College in New York to study why, this can't be real. To study why BIPOC teens read Japanese comic books. Why BIPOC teens read Japanese comic books.
Wait,
Black indigenous people of color.
Yes.
So what you want to know is why black kids are reading anime. That's what you want to know.
Yep.
That's all that is.
Yep.
And it takes $265,000 grants. How about this one? $250,000 for an LGBTQ historical marker or markers across Ohio. That's what we need. Mommy, what's that historical marker? Well, that one's not. That's where the gay man stood. Okay. What's that one over there? Well, that was where the first drag queen story hour took place. Okay. That's what we're talking about. How about this one? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
$400,000 to the University of Tennessee, just outside our listening area in Knoxville. The University of Tennessee, SEC, $400,000 to study LGBTQ plus library users' metadata. What does that even mean?
Metadata. I don't know.
LGBTQ library users' metadata. This is about as niche as you can get.
Yep.
And then let's get a couple more just for grin, just to make you mad. $6.7 million for the California State Library to enhance equitable library programs. That's pretty broad. What does that mean? Oh, I think that means a grant to, I don't know, the Gavin Newsom Children's Education Fund. And then lastly, perhaps one of my favorites, $1.5 million to the Connecticut State Library System to integrate social justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion into their daily work in the library system. Your Doge is at work, folks. Your Doge is hard at work. Listen, your Doge is at work. And praise God. I mean, the things that we have been slinging money at, talk about first world problems. Whether BIPOC teens read Japanese comic books, $265,000. Who came up with that?
And who cares?
Okay, there's that too. There is that. But I look at it and think, somewhere, someone said, I've got a graduate studies program I'd like to do. What do you want to do? Well, I've been thinking, I saw these black kids reading anime, and I need to know what the social implications are. Wow. We can get a grant for that. Okay.
Cash or check.
I'll write it up for you. Yeah, really. All right, listen, we're going to start getting text messages and getting caught up here. You guys are an amazing audience. We love this. I got to scroll way down. My goodness. By the way, you lost a lot of points, dude. Did you see that? John from Huntsville.
I saw he didn't like talking about the adios girl who...
Well, now, he says, I'm deducting points from JP's score for being too harsh on the adios girl because I've seen that video and the girl was speaking her native language of Spanish and the judge is being a real jerk to that cute girl, he says.
She flicked him off.
Well, hang on a second. John, are you being a misogynist?
Yeah.
You just went, you were defending her until all of a sudden you said, that cute girl. Mm-hmm. It just took a whole different turn, John.
I bet if it was a Spanish dude saying adios, he wouldn't have felt that way.
Yeah, adios, hombre.
And then flicked him off.
Yeah, it's not going to work. Lee from Huntsville checked in. She said, Democrats have made forum shopping an art form. Talking about picking out your judge. Yes. Yes, they have. Good to hear from you, Lee. Jeff Rowe from Indiana says, it's because Colorado's high that they really got lax pot laws there. Well, they do. I was in Springs, this has been, 10 years ago, walking around. I mean, it's like they actually have, like we have food trucks here, they have pot trucks. Pot trucks. Driving around with big old cannabis symbols on the side. Just pot trucks. Unbelievable. Matt from Madison checking in says, I feel like today should be labeled Jackassery Day. You're laying out. Do you have a jackassery sound effect over there? Matt from Madison is calling this Jackassery Day. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it going around. Ryan from Huntsville says, dead naming. What a perversion of being born again. Okay, you know what? I'm a new creature in Christ, but I didn't change my name. You know why? Because God affirmed me as I was. How about that? You got a call on the line? Yeah, no? Okay. Mike from Coxie, Alabama says, the only way to help Colorado is to import them some Rightside radio. You know what? I'm for that. I think we should do that. I think we need to find a way to get Rightside radio on in Colorado, bring them what we like to call our daily dose of freedom. Do you think they can handle it?
I think some could handle it, but if we're going to get into the areas where they're doing the liberal stuff, the targeted audience they're going after, I think their heads would implode.
I'm pretty sure the pot food trucks. How about that? There's a way to cover it. They can get their weed and their munchies taken care of all in one place. Clint from Tony, Alabama says, Phil, great show as per usual. Thank you, sir. Is treason still a thing? If so, why are some of these obviously treasonous people not being dealt with as treasonous? Well, I guess I need to know which one you're talking about, Clint. But if it's treason, I say go after it. Go after it hard. Paul from Athens says the child grab happened in Deer Park, New York. What are we talking
He
about?
sent a picture, something regarding with immunizations of children in New York.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was messed up. Colin from Decatur said, I would bet that I bet places that pass laws like that dead naming law from Colorado that causes the state to take your kid probably have a very high number of sex offenders. You know, wow. Colin, that's potentially so. Dustin from Hazel Green says, Phil, Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's. Ben Cohen was recently on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, believe it or not. It was really good conversation, man. I know you're a busy man, but here's the link if you find time. Thank you very much. And I like Patrick Bet-David. I need to check that out. David from Cortland again says, woke world is morally asleep. Again, David Thompson from Cortland, Alabama. Thank you, David. And then David from Buc-ee's checks in. He says, Phil, it's a good thing those that want to vote with proper ID don't fly. Adding flying to the long list of activities that requires valid IDs. You know what? But they can tell their parents they don't want to be dead named. So there's that. Thomas from Athens says, the undocumented queer unafraid person, does she and other woke crazies make money as clickbait on social media from other woke crazies? Follow the money or the ideology, just evil. I get a couple more and we're going to the break. Danny from Decatur says, I just saw a story on the internet. Oh, that's a great way to start a text. It has to be true. It was on the internet. Anyways, I saw a story on the internet that Des Moines, Iowa Transit has parked their 7 electric buses. I believe it. They started the program in 2020 to test the electric buses they bought for $865,000 each with a 75% federal grant. And the buses were only available 60% of the time. Diesel-powered buses available 90% of the time. So the California company that built the buses filed for bankruptcy. I've had that story on the air, as a matter of fact. That's a real story, Danny. And the company name, I'll think of it here in a minute. We actually had a story about them multiple times in my Green New Steel segment. All right, listen, one more text. Shag Nasty the Atheist checked in. Shag Nasty says, y'all want to find some sex offenders? Check the youth pastors and the priests. Wow, Shag Nasty. I would dare say no. There's going to be some everywhere, but I'm pretty sure they tend to haunt the left side of the spectrum a little more. All right, we're taking a break. We're taking a break right now, right very now. Y'all stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. John from Huntsville got the grades in. He says, even after a modest point deduction from JP's score, he still gets an A+ for his off-the-chain sound effect skills. However, today's winner is obviously filled with a perfect A++. Congratulations and adios on this beautiful Taco Tuesday. Proud of it. War Eagle. Thank you, John. I'm going to go to the phones because he waited through the break. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy. How are you doing?
Well, I'm in Nashville. That's all you need to know.
Anytime I ask that question, you give me that kind of, laugh. I think, I know where he is. I know exactly where he is.
Exactly.
Well, aside from going slow on the road right now, what do you think about all the stuff we've been talking about?
The Doge stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes to the American AID or whatever it is.
USAID?
USAID. You can't make me believe that these people aren't on the take on some of this stuff. I think we need to have a deep investigation into how much money was getting kicked back to these people. Because, like with the president of the Earth, they gave her like $4 billion or whatever it was when they was sinking ship.
President of the Earth, what? You talking about?
On Star Trek, she was president of the Earth.
Yeah.
Georgia, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't think of her name.
Now that if you hadn't done that to me, I'm now stuck on. Hang on, what is her name that ran for office in Georgia and got $2 billion from the Biden administration? Dadgummit.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we know who you're talking about.
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams. Thank you very much.
That's it. But you can't tell me that. How much money was she going to gain off this? Personal wealth of this.
She was probably going to set herself $1 million annual salary and just have a good time with it. And listen, I think the investigation's already going on, man. I do. In fact, there's something going on right now because Caroline Leavitt, press secretary, said today in a presser that somebody asked the question. She said, yes, there has been a major disturbing finding by Doge, but we're not ready to announce it yet. So I'm curious. I think it's corruption based. What do you think?
Oh yeah, my gosh, how, all these people getting these large amounts of money. How do you apply for that anyway? Maybe I need to apply for it for being a straight truck driver stuck in traffic in Nashville. Some kind of a study on this.
You're a cis white male with a MAGA hat and a Rightside shirt. You ain't getting any money out of that administration.
Not even with a kickback, probably.
No. Yeah, the whole thing has been nuts. And I look at this and I think, first of all, you read some of the titles on these grants and you're like, good gosh, could you be more virtue signaling in your write-ups than you were? But secondly, you think, who sits around what conference table and says, here's a great idea. Let's go do a $250,000 grant for whether or not black kids read anime comic books. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, how do you apply for that? That's what I'd like to know, because I've been working pretty hard all my life. I'd like to get a gravy train grant there, where I can just say I'm studying something and make basically millions of dollars.
Brother, I'm with you. You know what? There's got to be a way, but at the same time, I don't know how they sleep at night. I look at it and think, okay, I would feel dirty. I would feel like I needed a shower every day if I was milking the taxpayers for just useless money like that. But it happens every single day in America. We got money to burn.
Yeah, Rightside Radio will do all right once they take over PBS. It'll be all right.
We'll just send them in there and we'll just literally let JP just have at it. And next thing you know, it's going to be him running the entire show. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm your Huckleberry. I'll do it.
You're the Huckleberry?
Maybe you can make Bert and Ernie talk or something, Run the puppet show.
We'll go and clarify real quick. Bert and Ernie have never been gay, never have been.
That is a day one activity or a day one thing that we got to do. We specify Bert and Ernie are not gay.
That's all right. PBS is now clear.
They're just good friends, just like the Odd Couple.
All right, brother. Well, listen, you be safe on the road. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, okay?
Have a good one, Phil.
All right, we'll see you, man.
See you.
Oh, wow. Okay, listen. A lot of things going on here at Rightside. Just by the way, keep in mind my latest podcast comes out tomorrow. It'll be in the can. It's finished in production last night. It was going to final cleanup today, and should be published by tomorrow. But we got a lot of stuff going on at Rightside. A lot of things. We're real excited about some things that we're brewing. Can't wait to bring them to your attention later. But let's just say this: God is good, and I still pinch myself every once in a while that I get to do this. But it's because of y'all. And I'll end the show by saying there is no better audience out there, and I am keenly aware of it, and I do not take it for granted. You guys are the reason why we sit here every day in the studio and do what we do. You're the reason why we get up early in the morning and prep the show. You're the reasons why we do these podcasts. You're the reason why we spend all our time in production and doing the things that we do to bring you something that is going to do exactly what I try to say all the time. It's going to say that Jesus is Lord, America is great, and life is worth living. And that's what we're about. So yeah, all said and done, there is lots happening. Check out rightsidemedia.org and you will find it, including apparently a bunch of y'all who realized the promo code actually works and bought stuff today after we announced it. That was cool. All right, you guys, there's more of us than there are of them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight.